Have you ever considered that you're not just mysteriously bad at language learning, but that you're actually not trying hard enough to be bad at it? And in fact, being bad at it is how you get good at it. Have you considered that one? I just blew your mind and we're only 30 seconds into the video. Cheers. Tell me if this sounds like you. Okay, you get a burst of inspiration to learn a new language. You do your little 1-2, you download the app, you buy yourself a new little notebook, maybe watch some YouTube. It's a lot of fun. Everything's so new and all those baby steps, they feel like huge leaps because you're a beginner and everything's so new and la-di-da, happy fun time. No pressure, right? But after a while, gets real and there are all these like uncomfortable moments. You can understand but you can't speak. Scary. You make a mistake. Scary. All of these things, they make you retreat back into your little hole. You quit early to protect your ego. You go, oh, I wasn't really trying. I tried this one thing and it didn't work, so I guess I'm just bad at languages. No. Wake the up. You are under spells, people.
You are under spells, people.
I get it, okay? Like language learning, it can be rough. And it's easy to want to just write yourself off as like not being good at it or like, oh, this must not be my thing. Language learning is everybody's thing, okay? I've heard it all. This attitude, it's like it's a safety blanket that you're clinging onto to not have to try. So I'm here today to rip that safety blanket off you. We're going to talk about why you're quitting language learning too early, too easily, what you're actually avoiding, and how to get good at being bad at language learning. So to start, I think that the main reason that you think you're just bad at language learning is because of all the kind of like popular examples of language learning that we see growing up and like in the modern culture today. Like, what are the references that we have for what language learning is? School, first of all, it gives everybody such a distaste for language learning because we learn in such like an antisocial, methodical, kind of robotic way, heavily emphasizing like memorization and performance and perfection. So that's why, you know, you do really well on tests, but then that doesn't transfer into any kind of like actual skills when you have to have a real life like dynamic conversation with somebody in the real world. I mean, we've all heard that, right? Those people that are like, oh, you know, I took 4 years of Spanish in school, but I can't speak a word of it. That's why you were just focused on tests. And you know what? I have an anecdote for this. So Spanish was the first language that I taught myself. I started learning Spanish seriously when I was maybe about like 14. And so I was self-taught. In my world, like my concept of language learning, it was just full of color because I was doing the things that actually interested me, but just in Spanish, you know? Like it was literally just me throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like I learned a lot with music. I listened to a lot of Shakira growing up, studyspanish.com, just talking to people online on like Omegle, which I don't know if I recommend in this day and age, but it was the times. And so I did that for years until my senior year of high school. And I told myself I had a free slot in my schedule for my senior year. And I was like, okay, I'll take Spanish this year. Let's see like what level I can test into. I tested into Spanish 5 IB, which... yeah. So I was functionally fluent by the time I took my first Spanish class. Like I had taught myself to that level. I was like literally shocked. It was almost like a culture shock of how different the experience was learning a language by myself and all that I had known up until that point, and my experience of learning Spanish in school. I was like, this is ass on like several different levels. Like at that point, all of my classmates, we were seniors, so they had taken 4 years of Spanish at that point, and I had been learning Spanish for 4 years at that point. So we were all learning for the same amount of time, but as I looked around at my classmates, they were all very shy to speak, even the most like basic sentences in Spanish. You could see there wasn't really a lot of like speaking confidence, whereas I had put most of my emphasis on like verbal communication and speaking and listening. Yeah, it was just very crazy to see the difference between like being self-taught and how school tried to teach me to learn languages. But so that's why it was very clear to me that it wasn't their fault. It's not that they were like bad at Spanish or bad at languages. Like a lot of them thought that they were, and they would constantly say that. They were just not supported with like the right tools and the right mindset or attitude about it. And the next thing that has probably melted your brain into thinking that you're just bad at language learning is this genre of YouTube video. You know, a bunch of books in the thumbnail. I learned this language in 2 milliseconds, which not too much on these people. I'm sure they're all fine people. And I understand as content creators, you know, we got to make content that's engaging. But I think that these kind of like sensational challenge videos, they've become so popular. And so I think it's starting to actually like warp people's idea of what the language learning process is, how long it should take, what our approaches should be. The analogy that I would make about this kind of video is that it's kind of like corn, and I don't mean corn, I mean pornography. You know what I mean? Videos of adults having relations. So basically, like, you might have heard people talk about this phenomenon where like pornography, it literally alters young men's perceptions of what relations are supposed to be. And I feel like this is kind of the same thing. You think, oh, I've been learning Spanish for a year, but I'm still not as good as this guy who, learned it in 24 hours and filmed it for a video. I must be bad at it, or I'm clearly not trying as hard as he is, so I might as well just stop. I don't know. Am I being too woke? Let me know. But anyways, I would just suggest that you take these videos with a grain of salt as you watch them. Just see them as like entertainment and don't jump to like huge conclusions about yourself and your own language learning from them. So let's talk about why you're actually resisting so much that feeling of like being bad at language learning. Because I think for us, like as adults, I get it. We're used to feeling competent. We don't want to feel like a child who can't even like put sentences together. It's very humbling. It's very humbling. So something that I would say is really hurting society right now, and especially Gen Z, I think, is social media and like cringe culture. People act like everything is cringe now. Like it's cringe to try. It's cringe to be imperfect. Like I remember even in high school, like before social media and like Reels and TikTok were like a huge thing, people would still, like in my French class, people would laugh at the people who would actually try. Like if we were going around the room and we had to like say something out loud or like read a passage and someone actually tried to have a good accent, they would get laughed at. And it's like, I don't really know. What is the psychology of that? Actually, I'll tell you. I think people, they project their own insecurities onto you. I think they think that if they make you feel like trying is bad and cringe, then you will sink back down to their level. So, of course, this transfers into social media. First of all, social media is a hellscape as it is because people only post like the perfect versions of themselves. Like, of course, we're conditioned into thinking that we're the only ones who are struggling. I will say though, I think now more people are like showing up imperfectly on social media and sharing their failures, which I think is great. But I would say like in general for the past 10 years, it's just like, oh, look at my life. Look at everything I'm doing. I'm so great and I'm great at all of it. So like, it's no wonder that we're all up and we don't want to do anything that requires like grit and failure and vulnerability. And second of all, there's also this ass surveillance culture now where literally everybody's recording everything all the time, like recording strangers, and so it's so easy to turn into a meme just for doing something like slightly irregular or being slightly imperfect somehow. I'm getting mad. I'm actually getting mad right now. Like we've internalized this so much too. We've become these perfectionists who think that we have to, if we want to learn something, we have to get good at it and become perfect in private first, then we can share it with the world. You cannot be imperfect publicly, which is actually nonsense because you cannot get good or like fluent in a language in an echo chamber without ever, speaking to another person first. Like language learning, it's inherently a social thing. And so I hate that social media and this kind of cringe culture has kind of put us back into our shells and made us think that we need to be perfect first. Otherwise, somebody might embarrass us publicly or someone's going to think bad of us. You know what? The meme, I'm cringe, but I'm free. It's true. Okay, we need to remember that more and more, especially now, more than ever. So moving on. Another thing that I think is making you resist like being bad at a language is that you don't want to grow as a person. I'm like dragging y'all, I'm sorry, but this is true. My thing is, I think that you guys are too focused on learning the language itself and like the getting fluent of it all that you forget that there are other more important skills, like character skills that you have to learn and develop alongside learning the language. Like vulnerability, not caring about looking stupid, not caring about making mistakes, or at least not treating mistakes as like the end of the world. It's almost like people want to get around it, And that's why you have this dissonance of like, oh, I want this thing so bad, but I can't stand being bad at it. It's because you're focusing too much on vocab lists and practicing and speaking, and you're doing the things that you feel like you need to be doing, but you're not doing that like bit of reflection. Like, how can I better cope with making mistakes? How can I not make it about myself when I have a shortcoming or a failing? And you're leaving those skills behind. And that's why you can't get that far, is like you really need to change a little bit as a person to get really good at a language, because you need to open up, you need to be vulnerable, and you need to kind of stop giving a shit. Like when people ask me what are the biggest ways that languages have influenced your life, it's not because I live abroad, it's not all the friends and like relationships that I've made, it's not travel, although those things are very important. Like it has really changed my character and my personality. I used to be such like a shy, introverted, like self-critical person, especially in middle and high school. But because I had this hobby and this interest of learning languages, I really had to get comfortable putting myself out there and getting comfortable with rejection, and just doing that over and over and over. I became really desensitized to it. I become a lot more comfortable with myself and I'm not so self-critical all the time. And yeah, So if that sounds good to you, don't give up, kids. Like, I don't know what to say, but like, so how do you get comfortable being bad at languages? How do we get over this bridge and get comfortable being uncomfortable? First, I would say you need to rewire your brain and just start treating mistakes as information, because that's what they are. Like, instead of thinking, oh shit, I messed that up, just think, oh, that was wrong because of this, and now I know the correct way, and I'll try to remember it next time. It can be that simple. And you know what? I'm gonna go so far as to say that I think you should be grateful for mistakes, because they are literally showing you step by step what to actually improve and like pay attention to when you're trying to speak this language. Even if you're making the same mistake over and over, I think studies have shown that you need to be exposed to something like new information between 6 to like 20 times before the new information actually sticks. So do not let like repeated mistakes discourage you also. And next, you need to find environments where being bad is normal. Like, if the only environments you're practicing your target languages in is like with native speakers, of course you're going to be scared shitless, because like that's terrifying. That's probably as bad as it gets, you know, like having a native speaker in front of you waiting for an answer and you're just like no wonder that you feel so embarrassed about being bad at it. So what are some environments where being bad is normal? Boom, language exchange. You're bad at something, I'm bad at something. Let's be bad at something together because we have something to teach each other. Boom, group classes. We're all at the same level. We're all bad at something at the same time together. Like, when everybody is learning together, the pressure really disappears. Oh, but Elysse, where do I do group classes? Duh. Lingoda. You guys know I'm the biggest Lingoda mascot at this point. Like, give me one of the goddamn mascot suits. They're an online language school offering classes round the clock 24/7 in Spanish, French, German, English, Italian. I hope I'm not forgetting one. And they're small group classes, so you're not just sitting there in like a sea of people silently just listening to the teacher talk. Like, it's very interactive. You actually have to talk. Yes, that is the whole point, I fear. Even if it's a little painful at first, it really gets a lot easier. And the environment that they provide is just so uplifting and fun. And you can book classes literally whenever. It's like round the clock they offer classes, and so it makes it really, really easy to be consistent. And you're not expected to be perfect in these classes. Like, the teachers, they're used to you being in this like awkward kind of messy stage, so the only expectation is that you try, you know, even if it's just like a couple of clumsy sentences. And if you need a little extra push to actually show up, they have this thing called the Lingoda Sprint. It's basically a challenge where you commit to taking a class either every day or every other day for 2 months, and if you complete all the classes that you sign up for, normally you would just get half your money back or more free classes. But if you're in the US or the UK for March, you can get up to 100% cash back. 100%. That means you would either get your 30 classes or your 60 classes completely for free. So if you've been avoiding speaking because you think you're going to be bad, well, it just turns out that Lingoda is the perfect place to be bad. So I'll leave you a little link in the description if you want to check it out. So another tip I have for you is for you to redefine what being good at the language means. Basically, I want you to lower your standards a little bit because you're asking way too much of yourself. Like, if you only think you're good at a language when your sentence, it comes out perfectly conjugated, you don't stutter at all, you don't scramble or forget any words, you sound perfectly confident, like, how often are all of those things going to happen? There has to be some room for error. Otherwise, you're just never going to be happy with yourself. Like, there's always going to be something to nitpick. Succeeding at language learning is not just like constant perfection. It can look like a lot of different things. You know, success, it can be, you know, just getting your idea across and making yourself understood. It could be surviving a conversation. It could be learning 2 new words. Like, it doesn't have to be perfection for it to be good. You know, it's a little off topic, but I do want to share it because I think it's relevant. I recently got back into playing cello. I played cello all throughout high school, and I finally have the means to pick it back up again, and it's so exciting. But I've noticed the same kind of thing where it's like I'm having to correct a lot of different small things in my form. Like, you know, my left wrist is too low and I need to keep it high, or like, you know, I need to keep my thumb curved on the fingerboard. There are all these minute things that I have to correct, and it feels really overwhelming when I'm playing because I want to have them all perfect at once. But I've been practicing a lot with that mindset where I'm like, okay, when I play this piece through, I'm just going to focus on my right wrist, or I'm just going to focus on my right thumb and where it falls in the bow. And I have noticed some progress with that. Like, it feels like it's slowly coming together because I'm just focusing on slowly improving one thing at a time. And if nothing else I've said in this video has resonated with you, let this be your takeaway. The people who improve the fastest in a language are usually the ones who are most comfortable sounding bad and being bad. And why? Because they're the ones that speak more, they try more, and through that, you know, they get more feedback on what they're doing wrong, and then they use that feedback to improve. Simple. It's math. Simple math. If you avoid making mistakes, you're avoiding progress, so it's entirely up to you how long you want to do that, but yeah. So basically, TLDR, you have been sold the idea that language learning should be easy, and we live in a social media surveilled society where trying is cringe and everybody hates themselves, so it's no wonder that you think you're bad at language learning when really, princess, you have just seen the tip of the iceberg. So chin up, your tiara is falling calling. Get back out there. Try, be cringe. Don't give a fuck. There's so much good stuff waiting for you on the other side, and that I promise. Have a great day and go have a cup of tea. Love ya. Bye.